Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. It's Mallory with Made by Manny and Mal. In today's video, we're going to be making a Father's Day themed tumbler. Father's Day is right around the corner, so hopefully this is perfect timing for you. We're going to be doing a wood grain technique for this tumbler. Wood grain is one of my absolute favorite techniques. I love how it looks and I love how versatile it is. You can do wood grain with literally anything. You can take the design in so many different directions. So I'm really excited for this video. Hopefully you enjoy it, and if you do, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel if you are not already. It really helps our channel out, so we do appreciate it and we are so glad you're here. Okay, let's go. We're going to be using a 20-ounce traditional tumbler from Makerflow for this design. I've already sanded it down and then I prepped it and painted it white. Once the paint is dry, we're ready to go right into our wood grain. So for my wood grains, I use this old chip brush. As you can see, I've used it for a lot of wood grains. I just got it at the Dollar Tree. And I'm going to be using 3 different alcohol inks for the wood grain. I'm using Don't Speak from PDB, and then Sepia and Teak Wood from Tim Holtz. You can totally just use one color if you want to use 2. You can use as many colors as you want to. I like to use a good variation of browns just to give the cup more dimension. But I've also done plenty of wood grains with just one ink color, so don't feel like you have to go out and buy more colors. If you only have one, that is totally fine. The wood grain technique is really easy. I think it can be intimidating when you see something that looks like wood on a cup and you're like, oh my god, how did that happen? But literally you just take some of your ink and drizzle it on your tumbler, put it on your cup, and then take your chip brush to brush the color out and start to create that wood grain pattern. The way that you brush the inks out is what's going to create your wood grain pattern. So sometimes I'll go back and forth in really short strokes. Other times I'll do really long strokes across the whole length of the cup. And that's what's going to create the pattern and those knots and the different variation in your wood grain. So I'll go over the entire cup and then I'll go in and kind of start to build the color up, kind of like how I'm doing here. Do a second layer of the inks, which breaks it up a little bit and adds more dimension and more of that natural wood grain look. Alcohol inks dry really fast, so I definitely recommend going in short little sections, doing small sections at a time. And because they dry so quickly, you can go over your second layers pretty fast. So I can do one layer and then just go over it pretty much right away after I'm done brushing it out to really build that color up and start to get that variation and that really natural wood feel. I really love the dark vibe that this wood is. If you wanted a lighter wood color, I would go with Espresso from Tim Holtz. That's a really good one if you want a light wood vibe. So I'm just going to continue adding my color section by section, brushing it out, and I'm just going to keep going until I'm happy with the color. I'm going to try to create maybe a couple little knots, and I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. I'll zoom you in and do a knot. Basically, you just add a little bit of alcohol ink on top of what you've already laid down, brush it out in a really small brush stroke, and then it creates a tiny little knot, kind of like this one. And then I'll zoom you in and show a different one. Okay, I've got you zoomed in, and I'm not going to do a tiny knot. I'm just going to add a little bit more ink to diversify this wood grain feel. So as you can see, when I added that Don't Speak and then brushed it out, it lightened that color up and added a little bit more dimension, which is what I'm going for. I really want that natural, dark, rustic wood feel. Don't worry about the bottom of your cup yet. We are going to tape that off and paint it later, so you do not have to worry about doing any wood grain on the bottom. I'm going to finish up my color and then I'm going to let this dry a full 24 hours before I go in with epoxy. I do not seal my wood grains with anything. I just make sure they are totally dry and then go straight in with epoxy. Anytime I've sealed my wood grains, I have run into issues with the color running, the color changing, so I don't even mess with that. I just make sure it's totally dry and then go straight into epoxy. I just did 1 coat of CCDIY artist resin, and once that was cured, I went right into my decal. We don't have anything to get super smooth at this point, so we're not going to sand until later. So we're just gonna go right into our decal now. I'm using this Papa Bear SVG that I found on Creative Fabrica. I will have that linked in the description box below. I thought it was a really fun decal for Father's Day and goes really well with the wood grain theme, of course. I just cut it out in black Oracal 651 vinyl because I didn't want it to stand out too much. I wanted it to just be a little bit more subtle. Here's what our cup looks like so far with our decal applied. I really am liking this so far. Next thing we're going to do is take care of the bottom of our cup. I'm going to take my electrical tape and tape off the bottom rim. I'm not going up onto the sides of the cup. I really want to keep this spray paint down at the bottom. It's okay if it comes up a little bit. It'll tie in because we're going to spray paint it black. So it'll match if you want to bring it up, you know, onto the sides of the cup. Wrapping it in saran wrap so we don't get any spray paint on the rest of the cup, and I'm going to use flat black spray paint from Rustoleum. Once I've sprayed, I'm going to remove my saran wrap and my tape immediately, and then once the paint dries, we're going to go straight into our next coats of epoxy. For this coat of epoxy, I'm going to be trying a little extra epoxy. I got this sample from them and I've been really wanting to try it, so we're going to put it to the test on this cup right now. I mixed up about 30 milliliters and I'm going to just put it on this cup to seal our decal and our paint in, and then let this cure a full 12 hours before our next step. Our cup is fully cured now, so we are ready to move on to the next steps. I really like this epoxy. Like, look at that shine. Hello. I wanted to show you in this video also how to clean up the rim and the inside of your cup. So we're going to take a really sharp X-Acto knife and just run it along the top rim of our cup. And as you can see, we've got a lot of epoxy coming off. And I will usually, especially for cups like this, only do this once right before the final coat. But if you have a lot of glitter building up, or if you're doing a lot of coats of epoxy, you might want to do this more than once, like in between every couple coats. Once we've got all the epoxy chopped off with our knife, I'm going to take a 180 grit sanding block and just sand down the rim like I always do to expose that thin line of stainless steel so our final epoxy coat has something to adhere to. Once we're done with that, I'm going to take some acetone and a little cotton pad and just clean up all of the excess alcohol ink and stuff that's on the inside of the rim. I got my little push bottle acetone dispenser from the Dollar Tree. So just taking this and sliding it off, it comes off so easy. As you can see, I'm being really gentle. I'm not scrubbing. This shouldn't be a ton of work. It's also a lot easier if you work clean and you're not super messy and sloppy when you apply your stuff, just to make it easier on yourself in the end. So now our cup is clean. I washed it with dish soap and water. So now we are ready to apply our final coats of epoxy. I'm using artist resin from CCDIY, and I applied about 20 to 25 milliliters on this cup for our final coat. I gotta say, I am really impressed with this a little extra epoxy. I might have to order some and put it into my epoxy rotation. Anyway, I applied this, hit it with my torch really quick, and then let it cure a full 24 hours, and we were all done. I really love the simple elegance of this design. Sometimes less is more, and you don't have to do a bunch of complicated steps to get a really great finished result. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you are not already. And that's all. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you in the next one. Bye!